Hey, have you ever wondered how to make your own Facebook ads, how to actually set them up in the system and actually have them go out and actually make money on the other side? Well, today I'm going to walk you through step by step within Facebook's Business Manager, all the buttons to push, going to give you explanations of how to do it so that you have full confidence in running Facebook ads for your business and actually growing it. So if you haven't met me before, I'm Brian Czekanski. I'm a copywriter and marketing strategist. I focus on Facebook ads primarily for coaches and businesses that have moms as their audience. So every day I'm going to go live on various different platforms. So today I'm on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, walking you through, again, Business Manager and how to set up your ads if you're starting it from the very first time. Or just because of the recent Apple iOS update, there's a bunch of different changes to make you aware of, to make sure that you're setting up your ads correctly and to make sure that you're getting the positive return that you're looking for. So again, join me every day, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Going to go through various different things. Going to start out today, again, helping you kind of develop some, take away some of that uncertainty, give you confidence in how to actually set up your ad. And as we go along, I'm going to show you the different intricacies of a Facebook ad, everything from the Facebook pixel to how to look at your ad's performance and to know how to improve it over time. Also things like how to actually write your ads. So this is what I do on a day-to-day basis. I write Facebook ads for companies to get them more and more business. So I'm going to actually show you from start to finish how to actually do that, how to use the formula that I use to actually capture your audience's attention and turn them into customers quickly. And then, tomorrow in particular, I'm going to show you how to actually set up your ads to move people along that buyer's journey. How do you actually turn them from a prospect into a paying customer by doing there's the various different techniques and ways to do it. So I'm going to show you a couple different examples, just so you have confidence in setting up your ads, but knowing that you're going to get a return on the other side. Nobody wants to set up an ad and have it just become a money pit for them where they're just throwing money towards Facebook and nothing's coming back on the same side. So I want to make sure that you're setting up your ads profitably, that you have confidence in what you're doing to kind of remove all that uncertainty. Again, today I'm going to actually go through in Business Manager and show you what each of the buttons mean, how to set it up correctly, actually take away some of those mistakes that I see most often so that you are not putting your ads on Facebook and wondering, where are those customers? Where is that return that I was looking for? So again, check that out. Whatever platform you're on, hit that like button, hit that share button if you have anybody in your network that is first starting to think about Facebook ads right now, or maybe they're running Facebook ads and not quite getting the return that they're looking for. Again, this video can actually be step by step. It's going to be a little bit longer of a video. I'm not going to go this long every single day, but this one will be a little bit longer just because I am showing you kind of an ad from complete scratch, walking you through each of the steps and getting you more familiar with the platform so that you have the confidence to do that. And again, because of the recent Apple changes, there's a few different nuances that you have to be aware of as you go through and start to do that. So what I'm going to do right now is kind of just share my screen so you actually can see Business Manager. And that's, for the rest of the video here, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be actually showing you Business Manager and walking you through this. So again, on your screen, I'm assuming that you have already set up your Business Manager. If not, let me know in the comments. And the other thing I would like as well, as I go live, the great part about this is we can make it interactive. So if you want to hit me up in the comments, I can't, I'll try and look at them as much as possible, but especially as we go along, this is day one in terms of the lives. But if you want to show up at 2:30 every day, or even send me an email beforehand, if there's anything Facebook specific that you'd want me to cover, happy to cover that as we go along, but definitely make it interactive. Send me some comments along the way. If you have any questions, if you want me to dive deeper into certain sections, any kind of troubleshooting that you're trying to do for your Facebook ads as well. But, starting here, I'm assuming that you have set up your Business Manager, that you already know where Ads Manager is. If not, let me know. You can always do a live on actually how to set that up, how to set up a business page. But for right now, most of my clients and most of the people that I work with, they already have this kind of set up. So I'm just going to move ahead to this. So this is the kind of screen that you would see within Ads Manager when you hit that create button, that blue button right there over here to the left. And it just kind of comes up with this menu of options. And this is kind of where, you have to, choose the right thing. Facebook doesn't know the outcome that you're looking for. So you have to let it know, like, what do you want? Like, Facebook can't read your mind yet. Maybe in a few years it will have that ability, but right now it doesn't have an idea of what the outcome that you're looking for. So we have to let them know, like, okay, in terms of using the algorithm, and using your ads, what is that outcome that you're looking for? And for various different businesses, it's going to make a difference. And again, tomorrow we'll talk about kind of the stages of the funnel. If you want to put together a full sales funnel, you might have various different campaigns in there with different types. So you might cover a broad range. You might have a reach ad in there. You might have a traffic ad in there. You might have a conversions ad in there. Today, we're really going to focus on those conversions ad, because more than likely, you want more leads, you want more customers. That's one of the most effective ways to do it. And that's kind of the ads that I focus on day to day the most. But I'll kind of walk you through in each of this menu of options, like, what does it look like? And I'll kind of give you an idea of when should you use certain types of ads as you go along. So if we start from the left-hand side in terms of brand awareness or reach, these are great ones when you're, if you're thinking about the top of the sales funnel, you just want to get your name out there before you even send a conversion ad. If your market doesn't know you that well, or they're not, your brand isn't top of mind for them, this can be a great way to put something out there, kind of introduce yourself, start that conversation. There's not necessarily an action that you want them to take on the back of that. So reach is really, you pick a specific market, you target a specific market, it might be in the US or globally, and you're just asking Facebook to put that ad in front of everybody within that market. So again, if you can be really specific with your targeting, again, I focus on companies and businesses that focus on moms. So I can target moms either in the US or globally and just put a specific ad that's out there to kind of introduce that specific client that I'm working with. And again, it's just to kind of start to build up that brand awareness, start to introduce yourself, so that when you do put another ad in front of them, the statistics always say like between 5 and 7 touch points is what you need before a prospect becomes a customer. So, there's not a lot of customers unless you're, kind of putting a solution right in front of the person that they desperately need, where they, you can certainly have customers that buy right away as soon as they, see your stuff. But for most people, the average customer that you have, they're going to have to see your stuff a couple times to get familiar with you, to have that conversation. Think of it just think of it as kind of your dating life as well. Like, you're probably not going to go on a first date and accept a marriage proposal there. And it's the same thing with your marketing. So people have to kind of see your stuff again and again and again. And again, I'll cover that tomorrow in terms of specific examples of how you can use conversion ads, but some of these other types to start building up your brand awareness and eventually get them to becoming clients. So that's kind of the idea in terms of that awareness. It's kind of that first conversation to say like, hey, here's what I do. Here's what I'm all about. Here's my unique formula. Here's why, like, again, use weight loss as an example. Here's why my program is like nothing else you've ever experienced before. And here's why I can get you the results that you're looking for. And really starting that conversation. And then you get to a consideration. And this is kind of where people get confused. Especially this is what I see most often. People kind of choose that traffic campaign because they just want more traffic to their website. But you have to realize for Facebook, that traffic campaign is all about having cheap clicks. So what they're optimizing for is trying to put your ad in front of people to get that click. And once they get that click, they're going to try and find other people within the broader network, within that market that you're targeting, that is just going to click on that ad, not necessarily to opt in for something, not necessarily to purchase something, just to go to your website and to get it there. And then again, like people, this is where I see most often people will select a traffic campaign. They'll put that out there. They'll put it to their website, and they'll be disappointed because they didn't get the leads that they were looking for. They didn't get a lot of opt-ins. But if you choose traffic and you're really looking for leads and opt-ins, you chose the wrong campaign. And again, it's going to be more towards conversion campaign, which is what we're going to talk about today. And the difference between traffic and conversions is you have a specific action that you want Facebook to optimize for. So in the case of a conversion, you want people to actually put in their information on your landing page or on your sales page and actually hit that submit button and actually go through and give you their personal information and move along to that next step. So we're optimizing for those people that actually put in their information, hit that submit button, and get to that thank you page. Actually, either purchase your product or opt in for your email list or opt in for a webinar or a lead magnet or whatever it is. Again, we're going to cover that much more tomorrow. But it's kind of optimized for those people that actually take that step versus a traffic campaign where you're just asking Facebook to give you the cheapest clicks possible to your website and hoping that they take the right action that you want. So again, think about what your ultimate outcome is. Traffic can be a great campaign, especially if you've got a blog post or something else, like a video training that you want to send as many cheap clicks to as possible. It's going to get it to your website. Again, that's an easy way to kind of warm up your audience on a cheap basis before you use the pixel for things like retargeting. And that's where you can retarget people with conversion ads and things like that. But again, with the Apple iOS update, retargeting is something that is going to slowly diminish over time as Apple has kind of taken away a lot of that targeting that you're going to be able to do for their end users. So just recognize that some of these traffic campaigns, the typical way of doing it, sending traffic to a website, and pixeling all those people that made it to your website and then retargeting them with conversion ads or lead generation ads is going to get a lot more difficult. But again, we'll go into that a little bit more detail going forward. Engagement. If we go down to there, all you're really optimizing for is those people that are going to give you some kind of engagement. It might be a like, it might be a share, it might be a comment. So just be aware of that. Again, engagement is great. It's great for ads. The more engagement your ad has, especially on Facebook, that Facebook takes as a sign that your ad is something people really like, and that can help you get even more cheaper leads along the way. But again, you are not optimizing for a single action that gets you money coming in the door. You're just asking Facebook to optimize for those people that like, share, comment on your specific ad and nothing else. So that doesn't mean that they're going to go on to that next step or purchase your product. You're just asking Facebook to find people that, again, have taken that action and find more people like that. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're the right buyers for your product. It just means that they have engaged with your ad and Facebook is going to find more people like them. Again, so it has a place within the sales funnel. But for this one, if you're looking for leads, if you're looking for opt-ins, if you're looking for end customers, it's not the right campaign to choose. And then we get to app installs. Again, if you have a specific app that you're coming on to, you can send them directly to the App Store, the Google App Store, or the Apple App Store, and have them download that right away. What you typically see is a lot of new apps. They'll do like a 7-day free trial, and that's their way of kind of getting people in the door. It's a way to kind of warm them up, and hopefully they stay on and continue on as a customer because they love your app and those kind of things. So again, Facebook is optimizing for going to that app store and actually installing your app. Video views is something more recently, especially after the Apple iOS update, doing more and more of these because, again, targeting with that iOS update is becoming less and less detailed and clear. So what you can do is, as a first step within your sales funnel, is you can put out some of those videos anywhere from like 1 minute to 3 minutes, 5 minutes, that kind of explain your process a little bit better, describe your unique mechanism, your unique formula, as a way of kind of, again, similar to a brand awareness campaign, to kind of introduce yourself to an audience. And what that does is within Facebook, you can kind of track what users watched 75% of your video, 50% of your video, 25% of your video, and use those video views as a way to kind of capture and collect those audiences that have shown an interest in your stuff. So again, if you have a 1-minute video and somebody watches 75% of it, you can use that as an indication of, okay, this person is interested in what I'm selling, either a product or a service. So that's when I can send that person to the next step in the sales funnel, whatever it is. It could be testimonial, it could be a conversion ad to get them to get into a lead magnet or a webinar or to buy a book, whatever it is. But really using that video views as a way to kind of build audiences that are people are interested in your stuff and kind of move along. So what you're going to see is more and more of those video view ads coming through. And the great part is that video view ads are really cheap. So you can run video view ads for $1 a day. So really cheap. Start building in those audiences of people that are showing some interest in you. Again, you can specify it. So the criteria is that people watch 75% or more of my video. So I'm only putting ads in front of those people that have shown an interest in what I was talking about for a short period of time. Again, on Facebook, people have a short attention span. So you have to be able to play into that and get their interest. The second one after this, lead generation. Again, one that you're going to see more and more every time or going forward, because lead generation basically just means that everything is going to stay within the Facebook platform. So somebody's going to click on your ad. It's going to be a pop-up within the Facebook infrastructure. And Facebook is actually going to autofill their contact information into that content form. They're going to give you a little bit of space in terms of some kind of landing page that describes what they're opting in for. This is great for lead magnets. It could be great for things like webinars as you go along. Again, the user doesn't go outside of the Facebook ecosystem whatsoever. So Facebook loves that. But also it's not as affected by the Apple iOS update because, again, everything is within the Facebook ecosystem. So Facebook can track every type of user within that, and it makes the analytics a little bit better. So the downside is that you don't have as many options in terms of design or actions that you want people to take, or if you want an upsell to a specific product, you're not going to have as much control over that landing page. You're going to have a specific space, but also options in terms of building out that landing page within Facebook. But recognize that more and more, again, as the Apple iOS update has more and more of an impact on targeting, but also analytics, you're going to see more of those lead generation ads that keep people on the platform as much as possible. And then Messenger ads, again, trying to start that conversation within Facebook Messenger. Great way to kind of qualify people along the way, continue that conversation. So, something, again, as you keep people within the Facebook ecosystem, it's going to be less impacted by what's going on by Apple iOS and things like that. So conversion ads are things that are going to be impacted by Apple iOS because we're sending somebody outside the Facebook ecosystem. Again, it typically is a landing page or a sales page on whatever you're doing. So it could be your web page. It could be something that you build as an offshoot of your website. It could be going to things like ClickFunnels. If you're building a quiz funnel, it could be in things like Bucket.io. So all those things, something outside of Facebook, where you're taking somebody outside of that, you're going to use the Facebook pixel to track that person and show the different actions that they're looking for. And again, optimizing for that conversion activity. Again, the conversion for us is getting to that thank you page once they've submitted some kind of information about themselves. And then catalog sales, store traffic, again, a little bit more e-commerce focused. I'm not going to get as much into that today because that's not my focus and not as relevant for a lot of you out here. So once you click on conversions, it's going to ask you to name your campaign. I'm just going to do this real quick just so I can, I'm just going to title it example ad. You can do the same thing here. Like in terms of naming your campaign, I think for you really organize it is figuring out like, okay, are you targeting a specific market for this? So kind of just using those identifying figures so that within your business manager as you run more and more ads, which one is which. Does one have a specific image that you're running? So it could be image one. It could be specific. You could be testing out various forms of Facebook copy. So again, once we get into kind of testing specific copy, what I'm going to suggest is that you try out 4 or 5 different variations of your ad, because you're not, especially with conversion ads, you're not sure which of those first few lines is really going to hit or speak to your market. So it's always great to test out 4 or 5 different variations, let the winner, let that action kind of optimize, let the Facebook algorithm tell you which one is the winner out of all those instead of trying to guess. And then turn off all the rest of the ads that are out there and let that winner run. And then obviously you can run different variations against that control that you put up and get lower and lower lead costs over time. And again, one of the things for the Apple iOS update, a lot of times you would run those various different variations within a single campaign, within a specific ad set. You just have various different ad sets. But one of the changes for Apple iOS is a lot of that data is going to be sent back from a campaign level. So now, since going back to a few months, going back to March, what you want to do is set up a single campaign with a single ad within a single ad set, so that when, again, you do have some of those Apple users that do opt in for your product or take the action that you want, some of that data coming back at the campaign level will be much more, you'll be able to kind of see which ads are associated with which. Whereas if you have various different ads within the same campaign, you're not going to know which data is kind of aligned with each. So what you want to do now, set up a single campaign, single ad within the single ad set, and use that going forward. So just a small change, but helpful to use going forward. So the next step is we're going to get to the campaign level. So we've got specific, again, you put a campaign at the top. You've come up with some kind of campaign name. Recognize that there is special ad categories here. If you fall under any of these from a compliance perspective, it's going to ask you to click on one of those. And again, in future lives, we'll get into compliance a lot more, and we'll kind of get into some of these ad categories and what you can say, what words you can use, what you can't say, and all the kind of intricacies of that as we go along. But right now, we're just going to assume that you're running a conversion campaign that doesn't involve any of those special categories. So in terms of the campaign details, the buying type, we're going to keep it with auction. Campaign objective, again, just make sure that you chose the right one. For this one, we're going to go with conversions. If you wanted to put a spending limit in there, that's that might be helpful. For this one, we're not going to use anything. You can see kind of the A/B testing and the campaign budget optimization. Again, that was a little bit more helpful before the Apple iOS update. Now that you're only really running one ad within a campaign, you don't want to be doing as much of that A/B testing, because again, if you have an Apple user that opts in and you get that data set back at the campaign level, it's hard to allocate to the specific ads which one did better than the other based upon that. So you want to have one ad within the campaign more than anything else, which kind of makes a lot of this campaign budget optimization, A/B testing less relevant than it is now. So again, we're going to hit that next button and we're going to go to the actual ad set. So the ad set is really where you're going to dig into the specific information. And really, again, Facebook can only give you the results that are a reflection of, you have to tell Facebook what to do, not only in terms of the campaign, but also in terms of the market that you're going after. So this is kind of where it starts. So again, in terms of that conversion, you have several different options: website, app, messenger, WhatsApp. You can go on, that's kind of the end destination that you're looking for. 9 times out of 10 with the clients that I'm working with, we're going for a website. So that's where you kind of have to, I'm going to just keep it there. The change that we've seen since the Apple iOS update is actually seeing this little drop down here with the pixel. Before it would have been a little bit higher up, but it would just ask you for like, what is the actual website address. So now there's a couple extra steps that you have to use in terms of setting up a custom conversion, setting up a pixel. Again, I'll create a separate video on the pixel just because it takes, it's a little bit more detail in terms of that setup, but actually in terms of the intricacies as well. But just know, for a conversion campaign, especially if you're going to a website, you have to have the Facebook pixel. The Facebook pixel is just a line of code that you're going to put on your website. It allows Facebook to track those actions that are kind of track that user from the Facebook ecosystem to that landing page that they're looking for, and putting it out there. So again, the pixels is Facebook's way of kind of following that user outside of Facebook and trying to track those actions. Again, with the iOS update, Apple is kind of closing, kind of walling off some of that data that Facebook used to use, but you still set it up this way and do it that way. So again, for this one, I'm going to select from custom conversions, and custom conversions just means like, and you're going to set it up with an events manager. And again, I'll do a separate video on this, but what this does is really selecting from Specific custom conversions basically just says, I want to optimize for a user that gets to this specific page. Again, for a conversion campaign, what you want people to do is not to set up custom conversion on the page where they're inputting their personal information. You want it to be the page after. You want it to be the thank you page. Once they've hit that submit button, once they've passed along their personal information, name, email, phone number in some cases, if you're going for a direct purchase, credit card, things like that. So once they've taken that action, hit that submit button, that's the custom conversion that we want. So we just want to alert Facebook and let Facebook know. Again, Facebook can't read your mind or knows exactly what website page you want them to go to. You have to let them know specifically what is that website address, what is that end destination that you want them to do. And this is kind of, again, where I've seen people make mistakes in that they've set up their custom conversion to say on that page where they put in that personal information, they've optimized for that. And again, that changes your results because, again, the Facebook pixel is just going to optimize people that get to that page, but not necessarily fill in their information, which is not exactly what you want with a conversion. You want that lead information. You want people to take that action that they're looking for. So you want it really the page after. And by doing that, you make sure that you are asking Facebook for the right people. So Facebook is going to take that information for those first few people that opt in, that put in their information, hit that submit button. They're going to go all the way through to that next page. And Facebook is going to take that information, look at those people and say, within our ecosystem, within the market that you're targeting, who are those people just like the people that opted in that are likely to take the same action. And that's when they're going to start putting your ad in front of those people. And that's really the power of the algorithm, in that it doesn't have a lot of data around all these specific markets. It can start to look at those people that are taking the action that you want them to, and start putting in front of similar people within that broader network. And it makes it more likely that you're not going to have to spend as much on your ad costs. It's going to make it more likely that they're going to put your ad in front of the right people. And over time, the algorithm gets better and better as it collects more and more data, as people are taking action. That's where it can kind of really go down in numbers and say, like, okay, within this specific market, I know exactly who to put this ad in front of to get that ad working. And that's where you can start scaling up your ads as is working really well. Your lead costs are going to come down, but it all starts with giving Facebook the right data. And that's where conversion campaigns go wrong more times than not. You've set up the wrong campaign objective, not going with conversions. You might have gone with traffic or something else. You might go on with a reach campaign. And then the second part is really not telling Facebook what page on your website or your landing page or sales page to optimize for. Again, it should be that thank you page more times than not once they've taken the action that they're looking to do. And then the third part is really not targeting the right people, or creating such a huge audience that Facebook has to go through all these different people and seeing if they take the action that you want them to, and seeing that it's not the case. So again, we want to, and I'll go through this in a second, is really the targeting, making sure that you have the right targeting. Again, I'll talk about this in a separate video and I'll give you some examples, but we really want to focus on telling Facebook who are the specific people that they should put your ad in front of, and what's the specific problem that you solve. So we want to have kind of those two things in mind. What's the people? What's the problem that you solve that's going to allow you to narrow down your audience somewhere in the range. Kind of the sweet spot is anywhere from 500K to 1 million. That allows Facebook algorithm just enough audience that they can go out and look and collect enough data, but it's not too small that they don't have the flexibility to go out there and find those people that are just like those people that opted in. So that's kind of the sweet spot. Again, for certain audiences, it's going to be a little bit bigger. Certain audiences can be a little bit smaller. But again, I'll go through in a live in the next few days, showing you some specific examples that I've used for clients more recently to kind of bring this to life a little bit more. But it's all about kind of figuring out within the Facebook ecosystem, who are those, how can I identify my specific audience and tell Facebook, here's the right type of people to put my ad in front of. And number two, like, what is the specific problem? So it's a way to kind of narrow down that audience a little bit more. So if you just tell Facebook, my entire audience is the USA, and I'll kind of just show you this an example, it's going to have such a huge audience that you're going to spend, so much just for Facebook to kind of start eliminating people. And if you can kind of accelerate that progress for Facebook just by giving them a little bit more information, it helps them to kind of narrow down that audience a little bit more. So you can bring down your lead costs, make sure that you get in front of the right people, and that you're not putting your ad in front of all these people that just it's not relevant for you. Again, going back to the clients that I work for, moms as the main audience, like many times I see clients that are putting out ads in front of dads or single people or things like that. There's no reason to do that. When within Facebook, we can target, at the very least, we can target moms and get that audience down a little bit smaller. And then within moms, how can we be even more specific? So if you have a product that is for homeschool moms, there's specific things, and even further down in terms of those homeschool moms, what is that specific problem that they're dealing with? We can narrow down even more. So again, we want to get down our audience so that Facebook kind of has that right, a more minimized audience, so that they have all the tools, that they have the flexibility to find those people, but it's not so huge that you're just throwing your ad in front of all these people and doing it that way. It shouldn't be like a billboard on the side of the highway where there's a bunch of unqualified people seeing your ad. And that's kind of the power of the Facebook platform, is to kind of keep your lead costs low and to have that positive ROIs. You can be really specific because Facebook has all this data about its audience. It can be really specific in terms of Facebook. These are the type of people that I want to put my ad in front of, and all these other people I don't want in front of them. That's kind of the power as well. You can actually exclude specific people. It might be your, like in terms of your past buyers, you can actually exclude those people that have already bought from you if you have that list of people on that spreadsheet and things like that. Again, we'll get into a little bit more detail in terms of targeting. You can spend hours and hours on that, but today I'm just going to kind of walk you through each of these steps and maybe show you one example. So for this one, again, I'll show you how to do this in a future live in terms of setting this up. But I've already set up a conversion event for this, which I call quiz funnel outcomes. So this is a quiz funnel that we're optimizing for. So just kind of goes to that as well. Dynamic creative is kind of all about using various different images and headlines. Again, after the Apple iOS update, where you really want one ad within each campaign. You don't really want to be doing as much dynamic creative right now. You want to be creating separate ads to test in other campaigns. So this is not going to be as relevant. For most part, you're going to keep that off. Same thing with the offer. Then we get down to kind of the budget and the schedule. And this is kind of one of the things that I'm testing out right now. So it's early days in terms of that iOS update. As people update their software on their iPhone, I actually, on my iPhone, haven't got up to iOS 14 yet. So I'm sure it's a couple weeks away, at least for me. But I'm still on an earlier update just because my phone's a lot older. But right now, that kind of the impact of that is still to be seen. But right now, I'm still doing some testing in terms of the daily budget. If we thought back to before the Apple iOS update, I would have suggested to clients spend anywhere from $20 to $25 a day minimum to start getting the results that you're looking for. In terms of conversion ads you want, Facebook's going to require you to get anywhere from about 60 to round up to you. To make it simple, 60 conversions. They want at least 60 people opting in. That gives the Facebook algorithm enough data so that they can go around and find similar people within that specific market that you specified. Again, I'm testing out a little bit more. What I'm suggesting now to clients is spending at least $40. And that might end up being a little bit too low. But as we see the kind of the impact of Apple iOS and how that continues to move along, that's what I'm suggesting right now is kind of $40 to get enough conversions. Again, enough conversions being 60 a week so that Facebook has enough data to continuously run your ad on a week by week basis and doing it that way. So, at this time, like if you're starting to run an ad and you're looking for specific leads in terms of a lead magnet or going straight to a purchase or things like that, think about spending at least $40 a day. And again, tomorrow I'm going to give you the various different ways to make sure as you spend $40 a day, how do I get a positive return on investment there? How do I make it work for my business as you go along? And I'll show you various different ways that people are doing it and turning that $40 or more into paying clients and actually getting a return in terms of new clients and things like that. That's the ultimate goal that we're looking for, to grow your business and to make it show that every $1 that you put into Facebook, you get $2 back or $3 back. And that's really how you can scale up your Facebook ads and help you outperform the competition as well. So again, if I just start with a daily budget, I'll just put it in here right now as $40, but it's something to test as I'm going through. That might actually be too high at this point, but I'm just really being conservative as I go out there and start new ad campaigns at this point, as I don't have a lot of data. Especially for people that are starting out Facebook ads for the first time or starting out with a new offer, and you might not have a long tail of performance and analytics. If you have been running Facebook ads for a while, you obviously have a lot more clue into what is your lead costs and things like that, and how much you actually have to spend. But typically in those first few weeks, in the first month, you're trying to figure out like, okay, where's my cost per lead? How much do I have to spend? And you get to the point, and again, that's the power of the Facebook ads, is you actually get to the point where you can say, like, I have to spend $50 to get a new client for me, but that new client could be worth $5,000 to you. So that you'll make that exchange all the time. It's just a matter of going out there and figuring out those numbers. And again, on day one, you don't necessarily know that, but for my suggestion right now, start with $40 a day. That should hopefully get you to 60 conversions so that your ad continuously runs as you go along. Again, if you're in the various different scenarios, if you're sending somebody directly to a sales page and asking them to buy a $3,000 or $5,000 product or a 10K product, you're probably going to have to spend more than $40. But I'm really thinking of those people that are setting up a low-cost offer, maybe putting out their book for $10 or $15, or putting out a lead magnet to grow their email list, or sending people to a webinar, which is typically the conversion ads that you're seeing. And again, I'll show you some examples tomorrow. But that's really the idea, is putting that out there, introducing yourself, getting to those 5 or 7 touch points, using email, using a webinar, using a lead magnet to get to those 5 or 7 touch points where somebody is confident and has enough trust where they're ready to sign up with you as a client or buy your product as you go along. And then you can kind of schedule out what you want your start date to be. So my suggestion is always to start out in the beginning of your local day. So that way, if you started it's 3:07 on the East Coast right now, I probably wouldn't want to start my ad right now, because all Facebook is going to do is it's going to spend that $40 from now until the end of the day. It's just going to spend go out there and spend as much as possible within a shorter time frame. Whereas you want to give Facebook the entire day to spend and kind of allocate throughout the day as the right users come through, to allocate that money versus like a tight window. So never try and start your campaign at the very end of the day, or at 11. Like the worst case scenario is you started at 11:30 or 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock. Try and start it at 1 or 2 or 3 in the morning, and that gives Facebook as much time throughout the day as possible to spend that ad spend, put it in front of the right users, collect that data, and ultimately come through. So again, think about when you're going to start that out. Again, for this one, to give you an example. So again, I'm going to start it out with 2 a.m. I'm just going to move it forward. So again, I'm going to start this, for my example ad, I'm going to make sure that it starts tomorrow at 2 a.m. That gives Facebook enough time to allocate as you go along. Again, you can set an end date if you wanted to. If you had a launch or something like that, you can set it to the end date of your cart close, or whenever you wanted to end those ads as you go along. I'll just show you the more options as we go through. Again, if you want to do ad scheduling, I usually just have this running all the time, give Facebook the flexibility to put your ads in front of people. You don't want to be starting and stopping your ads at specific times. Just let the algorithm figure out when a user comes out. Like, you might not think that, okay, most of my users aren't up at 2 a.m., so I'm going to take away some of that allocation. But again, put kind of your trust in the Facebook algorithm to spend the money when it needs to, and just let the ads run all the time. So that would be my suggestion there. But again, you do have the option to kind of cut off your ad. It's say, don't run my ad during certain days or times or whatever it is. So again, this is where we get down to our audience in terms of asking Facebook, like, okay, in terms of if we went just globally, obviously we have 6.6 billion people. If that's our market, if that's what we put our ad in front of, I can tell you that you're going to spend a lot of money, wasting a lot of money putting in front of too broad of an audience. And Facebook is going to have an ocean of people that it has to put your ad in front of, putting your ad in front of people that aren't relevant. And you're going to throw away a lot of money versus, again, whittling it down and letting Facebook know what is the specific people that I focus on and what is the specific problem that I help solve, or that my audience would be maybe searching for on the internet. So again, I'll give you a couple examples for that as we go along. And again, I'll do a specific video on targeting, give you a few examples as we do that. So maybe if I just change the location to the US, just as an example. And one of the other things you should think about as well is you have various different options here. So you have people living in or recently in this location, people living in this location, people recently in this location, or people traveling in this location. So again, Facebook can kind of track. So maybe they don't live in the US, but maybe they just took a vacation here. Maybe they're here on a business trip, those kind of things. So think about your audience as well. Like, again, if you're, it depends on what your offer is, but for the most part, I'm going to choose people living in this location. So that what that does is, especially if I target the US audience and I want US clients who speak English, for example, I'm going to choose, this specific one. I'm going to make sure it's people living in this location. I don't want a lot of tourists that are coming in from wherever, and they're not actually staying here permanently. So again, if I just type in, and again, you can be as specific as possible. You can type in a specific address, especially if you're more of a local business and most of your customers are within your immediate vicinity. If you want to be just targeting those people within driving distance, for an example, one of the things that when I first started with Facebook ads is I had dentists as a client. So, they would just really target those people within 20 or 30 minutes driving distance of their area, because they didn't want to be, putting their ads in front of people from different states and things like that. You obviously could have a dental specialist that has people flying in from all over, but that wasn't the typical case. We just had a specific address. We put a specific radius around that, and we made sure that we're really specific and letting Facebook know this is the specific area that we're putting out there. So again, on the right-hand side, you can see in terms of that audience definition, it went from 6.6 billion people, and now it's 270 million people. Again, just a huge audience that you're putting out there, and it might not be right for what you're trying to do. And then you can get down to, this is where you can be a little bit more specific. Again, in terms of age, if you had a specific demographic, think about your best customers. How can we narrow that down as much as possible and narrow down our audience? So again, if your typical clients aren't in that 18 to 30 range, we can kind of take out some of those. If you typically don't have clients that are 65 plus, we can take down that range. Again, the more specific you can be for Facebook without getting the audience super low, that's always helpful. And maybe I can just put in an example. So again, using moms as an audience here, I can just edit this and choose women. And you'll see on the right-hand side, again, 150 million people is what we have here. And then I get down to specific detailed targeting. And this is where you can kind of type in, and this is where you have to do a little bit of research in terms of typing in some keywords that might make a difference for Facebook-wise. So you can see the various different interests. So I can choose as a parent things, and it'll give you a little bit more information. So you can see this is 335 million people in terms of that. It's telling you that it's people who have expressed some interest or like pages related to being a parent. But you can see, ones that are even further down. So things like helicopter parent, you can see helicopter parent is 1 million in terms of this. So maybe I'll just use it as an example. The helicopter parent. I like to think of myself not as a helicopter parent, but on some days, you never know. But the power of it is because we've chosen women, we've chosen helicopter parent. Now we're really focused on those moms. So you can't specifically, a lot of times, go after mom specifically. But if you choose parent and you tie that up with a gender specification, again, we've gotten our people down to 150 million. Still too big of an audience for us. So we have to do a little bit more. And what else you can do? What else you can do is put various other interests that are out there. So I could just do, see if we chose mom. Actually, you can you can specify kind of interested in any pages related to mom. So maybe we can just do that as well. So let's see if that kind of narrows down our universe. If I got rid of, they're about the same size. So again, we're still at 150 million people, still too many people. So what we want to do is kind of narrow down this ad a little bit more. And this is kind of where you can do an exclude if you want to exclude certain people. But this is kind of where I would do it, kind of narrow down the universe. So what I've got over here is kind of helicopter parent, like anybody that's interested, that's a woman that's interested in helicopter parent pages, mom pages. Here I can be a little bit more specific. So maybe I do homeschooling. So just targeting, those specific helicopter parent, those people, those women that are interested in either helicopter parent pages or mom pages that also have an interest in homeschooling. So you can see it says and must also match. So that kind of tells you that it's kind of the combination of the two. So again, these are kind of still really huge audiences. So still 20 million people. So here's where I do a little bit more research. Again, we've kind of focused a little bit more on the people. We focused on moms. We focus on those that are homeschooling. This is where I would kind of focus on that specific problem. What else would they be interested in? It could be things like, okay, it could be homeschool moms that are dealing with the anxiety. It could be homeschool moms that are looking for different curriculums. There's various different ways to do it. And it kind of depends on your product and your service. But ultimately, you want to kind of keep narrowing down this audience even further until you get this potential reach to less than a million people, somewhere in that 500K to a million audience. So that, again, it's not too big, it's not too small, but it's just right for Facebook to put your ad in front of the most relevant people, but still have the flexibility to do that. So again, I'll do a detailed video in terms of targeting, and we'll go through and just in the interest of time, I'm going to move on to doing that. And one of the things that you have to realize as well is making sure that this box is not checked. So it says detailed targeting expansion. What that means is you put in all those interests and those targets, and you can see how that changed things to 390,000. And it was really just because this box was checked. And because that box was checked, it basically nullified everything that was up here. So by unchecking that, what I did was I narrowed down the audience to just those people that are either interested in pages around helicopter parents or mom pages, but also have an interest in homeschooling. And you can see, again, 390,000 people. You're going to see that audience is going to get whittled down a little bit more as we get into the specific placements. So it might be too small of an audience, but again, it doesn't have to be exactly 500K, but we don't want it to be less than 100,000. For sure, we don't want it to be too small of an audience, but for right now, let's keep it where it is. You could do some further tweaking around to maybe get it a little bit higher, get it closer to that sweet spot of 500K to 1,000. But 390,000 is a pretty good audience, even if we wanted to run it right here. And you can see on the right-hand side, it'll give you an idea of what the potential reach, how many people would they put your ad in front of. Again, in terms of conversions, a little bit tougher with the Apple iOS update, how many specific conversions you are actually going to come through. But ultimately, you want to get, somewhere, like slightly below 10 every single day to get to that magical number of at least 60 on a weekly basis as you go through. And then languages, try and think about, like, again, you want people coming to you as prospects, as potential leads that are speaking your language. So if you only speak English, you don't want a bunch of people that only speak Spanish. So this is a way of, again, narrowing down that audience a little bit more. You can see the UK version, the US version. I usually just go with English all, and we'll see how that kind of impacts the audience that we see here. See, again, it didn't really have an impact in terms of the overall audience. So just keep an eye on that. And then I'll show more options just to show you what else it shows. Again, as you're doing this kind of research, and then in terms of connections. So again, if you're running this for your business page, this is where you could make sure that you don't put your ads in front of people that have already liked your page or already familiar with you, or maybe specific buyers of you already in terms of these connections. So this is a way, if you wanted to kind of expand your audience more beyond those people that have kind of interacted with your page already, just a way of kind of editing it here. But right now I just have it to all people. And then you can kind of, as you do this research, what I would suggest that you do all the time is just save those audiences. So as you're doing those keyword researches, seeing what's in the Facebook in terms of keyword, what might be relevant for your audience. And this is where testing, especially again with the Apple iOS update, is make sure that you're testing various different things. Again, we'll get into that a little bit more when I do a live on targeting specifically. I'll show you various different ways that you can test that out. But again, Facebook doesn't give you a ton of information in terms of those keywords. So we want to make sure that we're testing out various different ads with various different targeting to make sure that we're kind of optimizing and eventually getting your cost per lead down as much as possible in doing that. And then in terms of placements, what we ultimately want to get down to, I always turn this off and get down to manual placements. So Facebook is always going to recommend that you do automatic placements because that gives them maximum flexibility to put your ad on Instagram and Messenger and all these various different things. But recognize that whenever you're doing different placements, you're going to have to kind of redesign your ad to fit with whatever space that is. So we have the, like on some of the placements, you have the right-hand side sidebar. I'll kind of show you the various different options here. You can actually optimize for certain devices. So again, if you wanted to put your ad only on those people that had Android devices or only mobile users or like PCs. Obviously, the trend is obviously going towards mobile. So you're going to see more and more results coming from mobile. So if that becomes the trend, that all your leads are coming from mobile device users, you might optimize and just let Facebook know, I only want to put my ads in front of those people that are on a specific device, either Android or Apple, or mobile versus PC, those kind of things. So it's just one of those things that as you get more and more data, as you run ads, you'll get a sense for, like, here's where most of my leads are coming from. So as you set up a new ad, you can just go for a specific device if that's where you're typically getting your best customers or getting better leads from, those kind of things. So you can see the various different placements that are out there, the Facebook news feed, Instagram, marketplace, video feeds. There's just a ton of different options, stories. So again, you have to kind of optimize your ad for specific areas. So you wouldn't want to put a regular ad that goes in the news feed and also use it for stories, because that's something completely different. Obviously with stories, you're probably going to want some kind of video based ad that's 15 seconds or less that really fits that specific placement. So you're going to want to create specific ads for specific placements. And for me, I always want to test out. If you're starting an ad for the very first time, I want to start and test it out in the Facebook news feed. Obviously, the Facebook news feed is getting more and more crowded every day, but it's a way of kind of just starting out and getting some data coming through. And then as you go along, again, as you are getting the results that you're looking for, as you want to scale up, that's where you can go into Instagram. That's where you can go into stories. That's where you can go into various other things. That's a way of kind of raising your budget without throwing off the Facebook algorithm by just turning, like, typically you only want to scale your ad spend 20 to 30% or less as you move it up and kind of over a 48-hour business period. So you don't want to be constantly changing your budget and moving it up tremendously, because it's going to throw off the algorithm as much. One of the basic ways to scale your ad is to try different placements as well. So maybe you try Instagram if that's where your audience is hanging out. You might try stories, but again, you have to be very specific in terms of those ads and those, like what the ad looks like, how you set it up, all those kind of things. So what I'd recommend is if you're starting out an ad on Facebook for the very first time, start out with a Facebook news feed, start collecting some data, get to those 60 conversions on a weekly basis. And then if that's working, you're getting the cost per lead, you're getting you're getting new clients in the door, your business is growing, you're seeing a positive ROI. That's where you can go out and try these various different placements, scale up your ad from a newsfeed perspective, but also in these other placements as well, and just doing some experimentation. So what you have to do is kind of just uncheck these various different things. And again, this is one of those things that sometimes, even when you uncheck it, Facebook will, when you kind of confirm your ad and get it going, it will, check those boxes again. So just make sure that, before you hit that button at the very bottom, when we get to the actual ad and hit that confirm button, make sure you go into the review stage. You can see this little eyeball right here. Hit that review button, make sure that your placements are just Facebook newsfeed, and make sure it's just going there, because I've had it happen a few times where I've unchecked all these boxes, but for whatever reason, Facebook has kind of filled in all these boxes, or maybe I missed one of them, maybe I forgot to uncheck one of them. So just make sure, as a final step before you hit that confirm button, before your ad goes live. And again, that's one of the benefits of making sure that you plan your ads in advance. So don't have your ad set to run right away. Have it set sometime in the future, and that way you can kind of review things. You can double check it and make sure that's set up in the right way. So before it starts running, before Facebook starts spending money, you can make any of those corrections and get it going again. Again, just kind of unchecking these. And again, if somebody had a question, or if you want to hit me up with a comment in terms of what any of these mean, happy to kind of go through that in a little bit more detail. But if I just go to specific options, again, if you want to be more specific in terms of those mobile devices, operating systems that are out there, if you want to connect with people only when connected to Wi-Fi, that's an option as you go along too. And in terms of the rest of these, again, just make sure it's optimized for conversions. Let's see if there's anything else below this as well. 7 days after clicking is kind of again, after the Apple iOS update, that's kind of where you are right now. It used to be a longer attribution framework. So that basically says after somebody clicks on your ad and maybe makes that action that you're looking for a 7-day period, Facebook can kind of tabulate and keep track of that action. But we know, with the kind of regular consumer activity, they might click on an ad now, and a month from now or 3 months from now, or those kind of things. So you used to have a 28-day attribution setting, or longer attribution settings that are out there, which was really helpful, because certain prospects may not take that action within the next week right away. So it was helpful to kind of be able to attribute some of those actions that are a little bit further out to a specific ad. But again, another consequence of the Apple iOS update is 7 days is kind of that default right now, and you can't really do anything that's longer than that. Impression just means putting your ad in front of a specific person, so they're gonna charge you based on that, their impressions that way, and then just a standard delivery type. So there's not really I'm not going to go through those options, because those are kind of the default as you go through. And again, up here, just make sure that, again, if it's in draft, what you can do is kind of just toggle this on and off. If you want to turn it off, and not, again, if you want to just set it up without it taking any action whatsoever, you can just hit this next button. So if this ad set is turned off, it's not going to go, it's not going to submit to like Facebook right away. So now we get down to the actual ad, and this is kind of where you're putting in the graphics. This is where you're putting in the Facebook ad copy. This is where you're putting everything that person, that user, is going to see in front of them. It's going to be, choosing everything from your Facebook business page to everything else that's out there. And again, if you were running an ad to Instagram and things like that, this is where you can kind of modify that to make sure it looks correctly. It kind of sets up Facebook versus Instagram versus stories, all those kind of things. This is where you kind of modify that along the way. I'm actually not gonna get into Facebook ad copy today. I'm just going to show you the different options. Again, later in the week, I'm actually going to show you specific ads that I've done research for that I'm actually writing at this moment. I'm going to show you the prior ad. I'm going to show you the ad that I wrote and kind of show you the comparison, how I was thinking about it. Some of the Facebook ad formulas that I use to not only stay compliant with Facebook, but also to make sure that I'm getting the results that I'm looking for, to really draw on that user, especially with my audience of moms. How do I use emotional storytelling to really capture their attention, to kind of differentiate whatever client that I'm using as well. So differentiation is a key part of the ads that I write, a little bit longer forms. They're not a few sentences. They typically are a little bit longer, but that really is, the idea is there to kind of introduce yourself, to kind of capture them with an emotional, transformative story. Share what's unique about your product or what your service. Let them know what really differentiates you to kind of capture their attention, and let them know that your product or service isn't like everything else that they've tried before and maybe failed out before. And then getting to some kind of call to action. So again, tomorrow I'm going to get into the specific call to actions that you might have in terms of a lead magnet, webinar, sales page, all those kind of things. So we'll get into a lot more detail. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time in terms of the Facebook ad copy, but wanted to kind of introduce that a little bit in terms of starting out with a transformational story, sharing what's unique about your product or service, and then getting to a call to action. And again, later in the week, I'll typically do it every Friday where I'll share a specific ad that I'm working on, I'm researching, and show you kind of the before and after picture that is out there. Thursday, I'm going to show you some of those best examples, some of the best ads that I'm seeing within my Facebook news feed that are coming up, that I'm doing research on. So you'll get plenty of different examples of ads that are working not only in the mom market, but also in various different industries. So that'll be helpful as well. And again, each week I'll be doing some lives on things like compliance and targeting and all those kind of things, all the intricacies of not only how to write the best ad, but how to kind of get your cost per lead down as much as possible, and to make sure that you're getting a positive ROI, because that's really what it's all about. If you're running ads and you're not making any money, it's obviously not a sustainable thing. We want to make sure that we're getting a positive ROI. We're scaling that up as much as possible, and that's going to allow you to increase your market share versus competitors, but also continue to accelerate your growth as much as possible. So again, we get down to the actual ad setup. Once you've chosen your specific Facebook business profile that you want to go after. So you do have to have a business profile page, and obviously that kind of feeds into Business Manager as well. What you can do is kind of use an existing post. So if you have an existing post that has a ton of engagement, you already know is really working for your audience, it kind of fits the framework of what we're trying to do. So what you can do is actually, one of the ways that you can kind of test out some of that ad copy is put it on your business page or put it on your personal profile and see what kind of engagement, especially if your audience, if you already have a following of your audience already. Let me just put that out there as an existing post, see what kind of engagement. Are you getting lots of likes, comments, shares? Are they going to that website? Again, is it something that you can track via the pixel to see if they're taking the actions that you can take? That's an easy way of doing that with your existing post. You obviously can't run an ad, like an existing post, like an ad every single day, but maybe once a month or twice a month, you put an ad that like an ad like post that is out there on your business page or personal profile, and see how it performs. And if you get a lot of engagement, this is a way that you can use an existing post and use some of that social proof that you've gotten in terms of likes, shares, and comments, and turn that into an ad. So most people will see that boosted post option in terms of their comment. You don't really want to do that as much because you don't have as much opportunities to run conversion ads or as much targeting. You want to really come into Business Manager and run within Ads Manager that post. So this is where you're going to do it. You're going to use that existing post. Facebook will give you, among the various different business page posts that you've had, you can actually choose that and run with that. And Creative Hub is something that you can use as well. It's just a kind of a Facebook's way of kind of mocking up a specific ad. So if you had saved down within Creative Hub, just an ad that you might have been building with graphics and Facebook ad copy to see what it looked like, this is where you can come in and do it that way. So we go a little bit further down. I'm just gonna keep it to a single image or video. If we chose something like a carousel, what that means is just a carousel of various different images or videos. So if the user would see various different options, so it's a way of kind of maybe continuing the conversation for you. So maybe you have a group of different videos, that kind of a sequence of videos that you use in a carousel to kind of continue the conversation. Again, trying to get to that 5 or 7 touch points. That might be a way of capturing somebody's attention with the ad copy or with that first image in the video, and kind of continuing that conversation with the carousel as you go along. Then we get down to the actual ad creative. So added creative just means kind of the actual Facebook ad copy, the image that you're using, things like that. So here you're going to go to add media. And again, I'll just show you as an example. If I was going to add an image, so here's one right here, just use this rocket. This is what I'm going to use as the image. And then it'll ask you for an original or one-to-one recommended. So I'm just going to keep it the original. So if I went to one-to-one recommended, it was just kind of zoom in, just kind of a more cropped version. So obviously you can change around the cropping there, but I'm just going to keep it to original. I'm going to hit next. And it's just going to ask you if various different enhancements if you want to use. I'm just going to hit done for this one. Just going to allow those enhancements. It really just allows kind of Facebook the authority to kind of brighten up your photos, which is really what you want. And again, I'll do a specific live on images specifically. But the real key thing for images is you want them relevant to your ad as much as you can, but they don't absolutely have to. They don't have to be necessarily directly tied to your Facebook ad copy or your product or your service. Really, the key thing for the image is, and the real purpose of it, if you're using an image versus a video, is to stop that user in their tracks. Something that is full of bright colors or something unusual that they typically don't see in their feed, to get them stopping. Get that, everybody's kind of scrolling through their feed as much as possible. If you can use an image that stops them in their tracks, that's really what you want them to do. And that's really the only purpose of that image. And now, once you've stopped them in their tracks, hopefully you catch their attention with that first few lines of ad copy. Again, we'll get into how you actually do that in future lives, but let's capture their attention, those first few lines, get them hitting that see more button. Again, I focus on kind of that longer form ad copy. So there's going to be that see more button to get the rest of the ad coming through. And that's when we're going to get them into that transformational story. We're going to share what's unique about your product or service, and eventually get down to that call to action at the very bottom. So in terms of the primary text, again, I'm not going to go through it today, but this is where you'd put in your Facebook ad copy. You'd typically, what I do is just you'd write it out in a Google Doc, and then I'd copy and paste it right in here. The headline is something that is going to go right below the image. It's going to be something that, again, it might be another way to kind of stop that user in his tracks. Like, what is your specific ad all about? What can you put in a couple different words that kind of stops them in their tracks, kind of catches their attention, lets them know that this ad is right for them and that they should continue to read on. Again, the idea of the headline is not to sell them on your product or your service right away. It's just to kind of stop them in their tracks and get them reading through the rest of your ad. So think of that headline and that image as just a way of catching their attention. Then we want to immediately catch their focus with those first few lines of ad copy and get them moving down the page as much as possible. Description is something that's going to go right below the headline. So this is something to kind of test out and make sure that your headline is not too long and kind of cuts this off. But description is just something below the headline where you can put a little bit more information. Think of it kind of as a sub-headline that you're going to put out there as much as possible. And then you kind of have your various different call to action. So this is kind of the button at the bottom. You have various different options that you can put out there: get offer, learn more, listen more, play game, request time. So again, choose the one that is going to be relevant for you. Learn more is kind of the default that I use all the time. But again, use the one that is kind of most relevant to your ad that's out there. You can obviously run an ad with no button whatsoever. That makes it more look, it kind of allows your ad to kind of fit in with the regular news feed that people have out there. So if you have no button, we can always copy and paste in whatever the landing page URL is, and they would have to just hit that within the actual ads, within the ad copy versus clicking on a button. You can do it either way. So something else to kind of test out, but you can see the various different options: book now, apply now, contact us, all those kind of things. Find the one that is most relevant to your offer, but test that out as you go along. And then here's where you kind of get to your destination. Again, we want to make sure that it lines up with that specific. The destination is really where you want that person to go first. So this is not necessarily where that custom conversion. You remember in our ad set, we set up a custom conversion. That's where we want Facebook to optimize for in terms of that pixel. So this one is all about that first step. So this might be your landing page. This might be your sales page. This might be a webinar registration page. Whatever it is, what is that first initial website that you want to put in there to actually get that person getting going towards that action that you want? Again, it doesn't have to be, it should be the same website that your custom conversion is on. So it should have that same .com address in there. It might be a separate page from that, but they all should be kind of connected. So you don't want to send somebody to a destination right here in terms of a website that isn't connected at all to your custom conversion, because that's not going to match up with your Facebook pixel. The other thing to realize, especially in terms of custom conversions and conversion ads, is your compliance. Again, we're going to get into a lot more about Facebook compliance, what you can and cannot say, but you need to pay attention to what's on the first, the destination page that you send people to. That's also going to fall under Facebook compliance. So you have plenty of people, and I've had it too, where you get your ad rejected because that landing page is the problem, because it doesn't, it has a specific word on there, it has a phrase on there, and it doesn't have enough credibility on there. So a lot of times, in terms of that landing page, what we want to do is kind of bulk up the credibility of our business. You might have, one of the things I have all the time on Facebook landing pages is the business address at the top, the phone number at the top, to let Facebook know that this is a credible business, that you can kind of pick up the phone right away. If a user had a question or things like that, they would have, that opportunity. So really recognize that, once you get off Facebook, that doesn't mean you can do whatever you want once you get to that first destination. Facebook is going to take a look at that first destination page, again, whether it's landing page, sales page, whatever it is, and you're going to have to follow the compliance rules, again, that we're going to get in a lot more detail about. You're going to have to, again, don't call out your audience directly, make all the users feel good in terms of that language, in terms of weight loss and financial. There's specific words and phrases that you can't use as well. You're going to have to be a little bit more indirect, especially in terms of that ad. That's where I typically be more story oriented. That's where I use a lot of testimonials, use more of the owner's story. Tends to work a little bit better and tends to be a lot more compliant. And you're trying to do the same thing in terms of that landing page, especially that first destination. And again, we'll get into various different options there. Maybe you want people to eventually get to a sales page, but you have a landing page in between. That's something like an advertorial, which tells a story, which is more like a blog post that allows you to kind of use more of that story or continue the story that you told in that Facebook ad, kind of capture people's attention, but still stick true to Facebook compliance rules that are out there. So just keep that in mind. Again, that's one of the things that comes up again and again and again in terms of ads being denied, business accounts being shut down, ad accounts being shut down, people not realizing that that first destination, that first landing page, sales page, whatever it is also has to be compliant from Facebook perspective as well. And every single week, again, I'm going to specify a specific day, and I don't know what that is yet, but a specific day where I'm going to go through compliance and kind of cover a specific detail of Facebook compliance, just because it is important. Again, you can't run ads if you're not following the rules. And if you don't follow, if you go against Facebook's rules enough times, you're going to get your ad account shut down. You're going to get your business account shut down, and you're not going to be running ads on Facebook. So just be aware of that. Again, that might be the day that you turn in the most in terms of these lives, but I'll go through it in detail, take a certain specific section of the compliance rules and kind of lay it out for you so you know exactly. And I'll take some of those specific industries where it's a little bit more prevalent in terms of compliance to let you know what type of stories and words and phrases you can use and which ones you can't. And then right here, again, if you wanted to enter a link in terms of the ad, one of the things that I do a lot, if you have a really long a link that you have out there. You can use bit.ly, and that'll get you a little bit shorter link that puts in there. So that'll be the one that I put in there in terms of display link. If you wanted a little bit shorter one, bit.ly also allows you to kind of customize that that link as well. So you can kind of get creative with that a little bit more, make it a little bit more memorable, so that people keep it top of mind or share it a little bit more. So again, that's kind of more for if you're sending people to an address that has kind of a huge amount of characters and gets it too. Language, again, if you had that down there, again, once you get down to tracking, just make sure it's showing up correctly for the specific custom conversion that you're looking for. And that's pretty much it. You get down to, and on the preview side, you're going to be able to see, what your graphic looks like, what your headline looks like. You can see the description below that. You're going to be able to see the link. So actually go in there. You can actually go there and kind of preview a lot of the stuff. And I would encourage you. It's going to give you the option here to share it. You can send a notification to Facebook. And usually this is what I'll do kind of as that last step before I hit that publish button at the bottom, is send the notification to Facebook so I actually can see what it looks like in the news feed. So what this will actually do is you can go, you'll send that notification to Facebook, you'll go to your actual Facebook news feed, and it'll show up as that first ad. So you'll actually get the full user experience of what it's going to look like within their news feed, and you'll get a sense for okay, what are those first few sentences before the see more button comes through? Does that image really pop out as I scroll through the news feed? All those kind of things. So I definitely, in addition to hitting this review button and seeing that it's all set up correctly and it's all the way that you want, definitely send the notification to Facebook, share a link if you want to see what it actually looks like. So there's no surprises. Again, you don't want something in terms of the line spacing or anything like that to be a surprise. You want to actually see what the user experience looks like, and Facebook gives you that option. So that's pretty much it in terms of going through. If anybody had any comments, happy to kind of go through any of these right now. Not seeing any of these right now, but again, if you're watching the replay for any of the lives on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, if you're going through and thinking about running a Facebook ad and having some questions, feel free to leave a comment on this replay and let me know your thoughts. If there's anything that you want me to go into in a little bit more detail that I've covered today, again, I'm going to cover things like targeting, how to write the compliant, high converting Facebook ad copy. I'm going to give you examples. I'm going to get into the Facebook pixel. I'm going to get into compliance again, at least one day a week going forward. But again, every day during the week, Monday through Friday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, covering all things about Facebook ads. Again, my focus is all on kind of businesses and coaches and companies that focus on that mob audience. So it's going to skew a little bit more towards that way, whether you like it or not, in terms of some of those examples. But I'm going to kind of mix it up as much as possible across industries, just because I know across the various different platforms that you guys can appreciate some of the examples. And one of the best parts about seeing some of these examples across the different industries is taking what's working in various different industries and taking it for your specific ad as well. So you might see something that's, catches your attention in a different industry or a different product or a different service that catches your attention from their Facebook ad. And that's maybe something that you test out in terms of your ads, and maybe in terms of video format or video views. We talked about all those campaign objectives at the very beginning. What catches your attention in terms of those various different offers, and how can you kind of take what's working in those other industries to potentially make it work or test it out at least for your product or your service. So hoping this was helpful. Again, this is going to be, this was kind of a really long Facebook Live. These are going to typically be anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes every single day. I'm going to keep it really short. And, but this one's really important just because I want to actually see, show you what the business manager looks like, so you're not surprised when you get there. This is also a video that as you set up an ad for the first time, or as you're kind of taking, as you're going into Business Manager, post some of those iOS updates, checking out the various different intricacies and options and things like that. So hope that was helpful. Again, in the comments, let me know. Is there anything else that you wanted me to dig into a little bit more? Again, share this, hit the like button and share it with anybody else that might be considering Facebook ads or setting it up for the first time. And happy to continue the conversation. Hoping these lives are going to be a little bit more interactive going forward. You're going to hear less of me kind of talking, and we can kind of go through and have a conversation in terms of going through maybe your specific ad copy if you want to. If you're running an ad and maybe it isn't performing as well post the iOS update, happy to jump on a live and use you. What I'd love to do is once a week, kind of having a hot seat and improving some people's Facebook ad copy for, completely for free, as I would kind of do, how would kind of take that thought process of what you have right now. How can we change it into something that might get you better results along the way? So again, go to my website, mindsetcopy.com. Send me an email at brian@mindsetcopy.com if you want me to check out any of your ad copy, or again, any of your landing pages or sales pages that goes to, on the other side of your Facebook ads. And again, tomorrow, what I'm going to cover is how to really think about getting that positive ROI from your Facebook ads, how to have actual plan to make sure that as we set up your Facebook ad and get it running, how do we make sure that you're getting that positive ROI? So you're not just throwing money against the wall and hoping that something sticks. We want to make sure that we're kind of setting up that buyer's journey, as we'll get into a little bit more detail tomorrow, to make sure that you're getting the right clients that are paying the right, you're setting up the right offers, so you're getting the right income to not only pay for that ad spend, but even more so you can start scaling your ads and start increasing your market share, outperforming your competition by having that positive ROI that's coming through with your ads and ultimately your offer as you go through. So take care for now.